Hey, what's going on, guys? Just trying to cover another really subjective question that I've been asked recently regarding internships and how to get them. This is really a difficult question to address because there's really no clear-cut way to give you a straight-up answer of how to get an internship, but in this video, I'm just gonna try to give bits and pieces of advice and hopefully they're helpful. All right, so let's just get started. The first thing, this should almost be a no-brainer for getting an internship, but just use your direct network first. Start with your family, start with your friends, start with your relatives. I'm sure you know someone that could help you, and just start with the closest relationships first. My very first internship was at a chemistry lab that my dad hooked up for me, and it was just his friend's lab, and it was pretty much a place that was unrelated, like completely unrelated to programming whatsoever, but it was the best thing I could get. What did I really do at this internship? Well, it's not programming related per se, but I kind of try to make it be. They had a couple Linux computers over there running CentOS, so I remember that was a summer where I learned how to use Vim. I really learned how to get around a Linux machine, and I tried to just kind of, make the most out of some unrelated work experience. After it was done, I just put Linux under my resume, stuck the company name next to it, and it was kind of helpful. So my first point is always just use your direct relationships first, because this is the easiest in you have with anyone. And not only for internships, but your direct network is probably and will always be the most easiest way to find some opportunities. Second point is if you're enrolled in school and you're lucky enough to be a part of some academic program, you're definitely going to have resources, and I would just recommend you use them, all right? Even though the career fairs suck, just go to them and practice. At the very least, you can practice talking with people and selling yourself. Go to the career center, go to the career portal, look at some job postings, talk to one of those counselors. Just use all the resources as best you can. The one thing that we always have to remember, that if you're in school, you have zero credibility. I'm sorry, but when you're in school, you have almost zero credibility, and all your credibility, luckily, comes from the school because they're an establishment. And while you're in school, you need to piggyback off their credibility to just get it in with the recruiters. Okay, my third point is if you're not enrolled in any school, maybe you're in a separate industry and you want to get into software, and a good place to start is probably an internship, but how do you even get started with this? You don't have a school backing you up for credibility, and this is especially hard because if you're not enrolled in a school or you're a part of a whole separate industry, not even related to software, you have to build your whole credibility from scratch. This is really hard, but what you really have to do in this situation is really do your own learning, work on side projects, and kind of publish them so they can serve as a portfolio for you when you apply to some of these internships. The reason this is extra important if you're not in school is that doing side projects to gain that credibility is really the only leverage you have at this point if you want to get your foot in the door. So it's something you just have to, put some time in. All the outreach you have to do from scratch. You don't have a academic portal or career center to help you. You have to personally do all the digging to reach out and try to talk with people. Go to Indeed.com, go to AngelList, just do your own outreach, check out LinkedIn. Everything has to be on your own in terms of this outreach. Okay, the next point that I feel like we should all talk about is how to target companies. Who do you talk with, and how do you really go about picking the best battles for you? First and foremost, just putting it out there that the internships at the big corporate companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, those are the most competitive to get. If you're not in school, it's going to be insanely hard to even get a chance to talk with those companies, especially for an internship. And even if you're in a school, it's also insanely hard and competitive just to get one of those positions. This does look the best on paper though, so it doesn't hurt trying. My recommendation, personal recommendation for targeting is to really look for mid-stage startup companies. And when I say mid-stage startups, that's probably between 50 to a couple hundred people. Do not target any startup that has less than 50 people because they really don't have time money or energy to accommodate for an internship. So you have to have this sweet spot of, I think, around 50 to 200 people or 300 people. The thing about companies at this size is that they're really trying to grow really fast. And one way they can grow is by nurturing an intern or having an internship program, because that's also a really good way to hire good engineers. Mid-sized startup companies, they still don't have enough resources to find you as an intern. You still have to dig and search for them. So to find these companies, just make sure to do your own outreach. One thing that I did that was kind of helpful for this style of company is go to investor websites and check out all their portfolio companies. And then there's also a good site called Crunchbase that gives you the funding and historical details of almost every single startup, so you can get a feel for how big they are and what stage of the game they're in. And again, ignore the startups that are really small, probably less than 50 people, because they honestly cannot give you any time, so it's not even worth it for you. My last point in this whole talk is what to do once you get there and you have this internship. My number one point for any prospective interns, or maybe you're going into one soon and you're thinking about it, is that the most important thing to do is just be as proactive as possible. The honest truth about any internship program, even if it's quite structured, is that no one really gives a shit that you're there. To get the most out of it, you really have to be the proactive one, to ask for more work, to learn as much as you can, because your mentor or whoever's really looking after you, they're not spending a lot of their mental bandwidth on an intern. So these things are usually 3 to 6 months. It's a really short amount of time, and everyone's expectation of you, the expectation of an intern is that you're not really gonna do anything quite productive. So you're already fighting this uphill battle, and it's really up to you to try to, be as proactive as you can and really prove them wrong. Be like, oh, I can actually do a lot here. I'm a pretty good intern. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. Just little bits and pieces of advice, I think. I'm not a master at how to get these internships, but hopefully some of this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, just write me a comment. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. And as always, have a great week, and I'll see you everyone next time. All right?